Cities, especially the big ones like San Francisco, are a lot harder to hitchhike out of for a few reasons. For the most part, this is because people understandably assume that you're homeless, a transient. Problem is, with what they just saw in the city, they also assume bum, scumbag, crazy person, drug addict, whatever. Especially walking around the city with my pack. I have never experienced or understood this more than during this adventure, and I myself am guilty of coming to the same conclusions. I'm becoming more fascinated with this concept, and I ask that you all reconsider the conclusions that you come to about strangers. We all do this to a certain extent. I, for one, am absolutely guilty of coming to assumptions and conclusions and judging people I know nothing about, especially drug addicts and homeless. I don't know them. I don't know what their childhood was like, what kind of parents they had, what location they grew up in. I know nothing about them. And yet I found it really easy to assume that they chose this life, and because of that, they deserve it. Which is real easy for someone like me to do, who was raised in a nice little city by great parents who love me and care about me and did everything they could to give me a good life. And yet I still almost threw my life away and drank myself to death. Who am I to judge them? Who are you to judge us? Is it financial stability? Is it material success that puts some of us on this pedestal where we can look down on others from way up above? Were you privileged? Think about it. How many doors did you have available to you that others didn't, that led to where you are today? Or are you going to insist that everything that you are is because of everything that you've done and what you chose to do? Do you honestly believe that you are where you're at in life and that you think the way that you think because of the decisions you made? Do you take credit for all of it? We are all a combination of nature and nurture, the way that we are naturally and the things that happen to us, the way that we were raised, the location, the people that raised us. Everything molds us into what we are. Now, don't get me wrong here. I do believe that we are defined by our actions for the most part, and plenty of people should be judged or even beaten and tortured and killed for the things that they've done. And then they shouldn't just get a pass for having a bad childhood or an addiction. What I'm talking about is the pedestal. You don't know what that person went through that you're judging, and even if you do, you don't know what it feels like to be them and have actually gone through it, or what you would do and who you would be if the roles were reversed. It's part of the human condition to compare ourselves to others and find reasons why we do it better. Hell, I'm doing it right now. I'm convinced that I've got something figured out that the rest of you don't, and I'm gonna have a better life because of it, when in reality, I'm just a spoiled prick of an American that feels trapped in his own life, even though he lives in the land of opportunity and freedom. And you know what? It's very likely that by the time I realize that I should have gotten a wife and had kids and raised a family and given my life purpose, that it'll be too late and I will be too old and I may just die alone. And that will be in part because I can't control this gnawing at the back of my skull telling me that's not for you. That way of life is not for you. That job, that career, that industry, that house, that city, that state, those bills, she's not for you. Those people, that band, that drama is not for you. Get out. Go. You see, I have to deal with and come to terms with the decisions I made. That's for me to do. That's for me to judge. Certainly not you, because you don't know what this gnawing feels like at the back of my skull. Or you do, and you're able to control it like the rest of you, and that's why you're watching. Okay, well, apologies for spending so long on this voiceover on this subject. That wasn't the plan. If it was, I would have edited together a bunch of stuff, homeless people and wealthy people and stuff from my past and whatnot. Now, even though this started with me talking about how hard it is to hitchhike out of a city because people think you're homeless, I'm not implying there's anything wrong with these people judging me and not picking me up. One of the first things you should learn about hitchhiking is not to get mad at people for not picking you up. Hell, look at me. It just brought up the point. The other day, I was hitchhiking, and a teenage girl stuck her head out the back window and said, "Get a job, loser!" I'm standing there with a sign that says adventure, okay? And if this little bitch only knew what I'm doing here and what I left to do it. But I quickly had to remind myself that she's probably like that because of her parents, you know? So, where I really felt it was in the city, walking around with the backpack. If I didn't have the backpack, people would look me in the eye, they'd smile at me, treat me like a normal person. If I walked by with the backpack, if they saw me in their periph with a large backpack, they would look through me. It was absolutely fascinating. How different people will treat you or look at you, or even look at you at all, because of something as simple as a backpack. Now, I'm not saying all or even most people did this, but the comparison was huge. I imagine this is how the disabled or the morbidly obese feel. Or anybody just different, whatever that means. And if people aren't looking through you, sometimes they'll give you this pity, frown, smile, smirk fucking thing that I can't stand. Like you feel sorry for me. Fuck you. You have no idea what I'm doing out here and how much fun I'm having. But then again, I'll see a guy with like 6 kids and a wife who look like she let herself go, and I'll feel sorry for him. So, I guess I'm just as bad. And all this talk of homeless and transients like I'm not one, because I'm constantly moving. What is the word for that? Backpacker? Traveler? I'd say nomad, obviously, but that doesn't even seem to be a common household phrase these days. Hobo? Come on. All these words and phrases and labels that we put on people who don't live a conventional, typical, socially acceptable way of life. A bum, maybe? I'll tell you this, the only thing I've asked for on this trip so far from people is a ride with my thumb or water, because I'm out and there's no clean water source around. Homeless? Technically, I guess. What's the point of paying for a place if you have no intention to go back? Or intention to stay anywhere for very long? Hell, I consider it home free, and on my way to being bill free as well for the most part. But am I really as free as I think I am? Or is this just another version of that comfortable, elaborate cage I was talking about? Okay, I could probably go on and prefer to go back and reword things a bit, but let's move on, shall we? And apologies for the bad audio. Remember, I'm still doing this on my phone on the road. It's starting to rain right now. But let me give you a little recap on what's been going on in the background here. Well, to start with, for like 45 minutes, I tried hitchhiking out of the city with my nose ring still in. Not the best way to get a ride. The whole time I've been here for like 45 minutes, I forgot to tuck my nose ring in. It was starting to get dark, so I looked for a place nearby to camp, but it turned out to be Slopesville. Then I kept going down that road and eventually ran into a cop who told me I was trespassing, and I can't hitchhike in the state of California.
Can't hitchhike in the state of California, it's a misdemeanor. Fucking... That has to be bullshit. He took my name down.
Then I found out my GoPro stopped working, which is devastating. One of them is devastating. My GoPro just died. See how it's showing that little battery symbol? It's not working. I'm hearing so many different things from so many different cops that it doesn't even make sense. Like, they don't know. Eventually, I took an Uber out of that cop's jurisdiction to a spot that looked great on Google Earth, but turned out to be a problem because there was a skunk and a raccoon, and they were friends, and somebody was feeding them. But they were cute. There's a raccoon right there, skunk right here. and somebody's feeding both of them right here. Hey guys. Hi guys. I finally found camp after more than 2 hours of looking, and when I was cooking my food, I realized I wasn't alone. Okay, so here I am in Slopesville, where it's very slopey, and I'm cooking my meal. I keep hearing something. I think that I see a shadow, right? It's a skunk. There is a skunk on the hill here. So I need to be careful and not get sprayed by a skunk. I didn't even think about that. Like, what would happen if I got sprayed by a skunk? See, I can hear animals out here, and I know that the raccoons and skunks. I ignored the noises in the woods like usual and got some sleep, but it wasn't very comfortable because I was still in Slopeland. I was in Marin City and back on road mode, looking forward to making my way up the coast as far as I could for a while. I quickly got picked up by 3 young surfers on their way to a great spot, and they invited me, but I was in road mode and had to keep going. Unfortunately, I wasn't filming when I thought I was, so I didn't get any footage of these people, but they were awesome. Turns out my phone was glitching and running low on battery, so I turned it off and missed the next 2 rides. This is what I can't stand about running low on battery or having defective electronics while trying to film stuff like this, because the next ride was insane. I surprisingly got picked up by a woman. And speaking of judging people and coming to assumptions, I assume this woman was tweaked out of her mind and had Tourette's. Because while she was telling me about how crazy her life is and how bad of a day she was having and how she just got kicked out of her best friend's wedding like an hour ago, every time the seatbelt thing dinged at her, instead of putting her seatbelt on, she'd say, "Poodle," or "Flip-flops," or "Zingers," or something crazy like that. It was insane, but she was a lot of fun, so I wouldn't take it back. But don't do what I do. I suggest that you either turn down or end rides as soon as you find out somebody is unstable or on drugs or alcohol. I do take risks on the road that I consider calculated, but don't be discouraged. I rarely run into wackos. She was definitely one of them, but she drove just fine. Right after that, I got a great ride from a wonderful woman and was able to charge my phone again. Just got a ride from this wonderful woman and her dog. It's so great. She got me to Bodega Bay. Her and I were on the same wavelength with this traveling thing and feeling trapped in your own life and whatnot. I really wish I had captured some of our conversation. Bodega Bay was beautiful, but I wasn't able to enjoy it because it was so damn windy the whole time. But I was able to end the day on a good note when I realized that my GoPro was still working and had just decided to die for a couple days. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to end this episode here, but in the next one, I'll explain how I ended up here, hosted, for 3 days. And I might end up telling you about how I met the love of my life here in this hippie motorhome. And I may even explain what's going on with this charismatic ladies' man and why I'm still in the truck. Now remember, don't judge strangers, people. This is Christopher Twist. Thanks for watching. There's a lot more to come.